it's Nicole and Jennifer here today to show you some creative uses for sedums and succulents. We have been planting living wreaths and doing other vertical projects with sedums and succulents for several years now, but we have recently found a new product that are living letters, well made in California by a company called Living Creations. Jennifer has been planting these things up like crazy, and so she's here today to both show me and you how these get planted.
I have pre-soaked it. It comes with this nice layer of moss, which you can see because I soaked it is nice and spongy, making it easy to work with. So, and I've learned a few tricks this week while planting these. One of them is that my grandmother's crochet hook works perfectly. I don't crochet, but I do garden. So here we go. The reason why it works perfectly, it has a hook on one end, and you can see there's like a little mesh holding all this in place.
The frame,
yeah. So, and that's what's gonna help hold the sedums in place too once they get planted. So that's important, but you need to get a little bit of this moss out to give yourself some planting room. So that's where the hook comes in. You can just push in and pull out. I mean, if you just have a little piece of bamboo or any little tool, you know, screwdriver I've heard works well too. This is just what I found that works well for me. So now I've got
no dirt in there.
No, this, you know, there's a couple sizes of letters. This is the smaller size, and it's just moss. The larger size of letter actually has a layer of dirt underneath the moss as well.
I haven't even peeked inside.
So here we go. And I'm going to show you how to use a combination of hardy sedums, which you can break apart. And you really want something that you can break apart because they're small, you know, this is a small space to work with. So that's why I've chosen this selection of hen and chicks that I can also just pull off these little babies to plant inside this letter. So here we go. I'm just gonna kind of tuck those in. I like to do them in little groupings because, you know, they're friends. So here we go, and this is where the other end of the tool comes into place. I just use this to kind of tuck around the side.
You're pushing?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of getting all that extra soil and those little roots in place, making it nice and secure. And if you feel like it's still a little loose, you can take some of the moss that you've removed and just kind of tuck it in the edge.
Just fill in the gaps.
So there we go. Now we've started with some cute little rosettes. So I'm going to move on. I like to do a combination of textures, and here's a nice fine textured hardy sedum that's also bright, which stands out against some of the other colors really nicely. So you can notice I've just really roughly pulled off that whole bottom of the soil, of the root ball of the sedum. They really don't mind. They, you know, you don't want all that soil when you're trying to work with these smaller spaces.
You wouldn't be able to fit it in there.
Exactly, yeah, and they don't mind at all. So don't feel bad. I know we get a little squeamish thinking that we're hurting the plant, but it's really the best thing to do.
After working with them, you know, a piece breaks off, you just replant it.
So here I go. I'm gonna find another little spot.
Pretty close together.
Yeah, I like to start close together. That way it fills in really quickly. You can, if you have, you know, more patience than me, you can do them farther apart, but I like to have it really full. So this is a little bigger root ball that I'm working with, you can see, and I'm just gonna kind of tease it in, and again, use my handy tool.
That does work great.
Doesn't that? And there you go. Now we have a little friend for our rosettes. So what's really fun too is annual sedums, and here's some examples right here that we've taken cuttings of. So they were getting a little leggy, a little long, so we've actually pinched them off, and then they root so easily that you can then, this is a perfect application to get them to root. I'm just gonna pull off these lower leaves. That's where the roots are gonna sprout from. So now I have a nice little stem to work with, and then I can just really tuck these in anywhere. So I'll just make a little hole with my tool, tuck that in, get some of my moss.
And now what I found is, of course, these little cuttings, they seem to take better if they've had a day or so to be resting. It seems like they
kind of heal over.
the end seals up instead of kind of rots, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they like to have been, I pulled these off yesterday. So they've had 24 hours to sit and kind of seal over, so the end isn't wet or mushy anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not so new. So here we go, and you can see, I'm just going to continue, and I don't like to use too many different types of plants in the same planting, just because it gets a little busy. And this makes a nice, when you kind of repeat some of the same elements, it just really makes a nice look. As you can see here, we've got some of the same elements that are coming back throughout. And then I also wanted to show you, this is a fun one. You can get really creative though. This is just all annual succulents. So here you can see the potential of a before and after. This is just going to grow and continue to plump and be lush.
Not just letters, huh? Shapes with stars, I saw.
Stars, numbers, yeah.
And hearts.
All sorts of things you can do.
Very fun. Now that we have these beautiful creations planted, it's important to know that although they require very little care, there is a little care involved. Dunking is the best way to water these creations. We submerge them actually in a bowl or a low container of water, completely covering the plants, or at least covering the box themselves. This should be done in the summertime at least once a week. And if they're in a really hot spot, it may be more frequently done. In the water, you could put occasionally a diluted fertilizer just to keep them with good color. But their color also is very important to have some bright sunlight to keep them in all of their various colors and textures. They also can, in less than bright sunlight, stretch or grow a little taller or longer out of their tight form. And so once that happens, you can simply pinch the plant off at a point that makes you happy. Again, as we showed earlier, these little pinchings let them dry for 24 hours or so, and then they could be reinserted into the container or planted into another pot. So the care on these is really quite easy. Remember though that if you've chosen tender or tropical succulents, it's best to bring them indoors or into protection by about Halloween. If they're non-tender, hardy succulents, they can stay outdoors and enjoy temperatures ranging from 0 to even well below 0 degrees, as long as they're not allowed to be overly wet in the wintertime. One of the fun things about all of these creative uses for sedums and succulents is doing it in a group or with a girlfriend or for a party. We would love to have you come and celebrate some special event with us at Dennis's 70s. We are able to host parties in small and large groups and can do planting projects where you take a very creative project home for yourself. Contact us and let us know what parties we can throw for you.